Hi there, Heidi Heron here. Today I'm going to just share some ideas with you about creating your future and living the life that you want to live. Hi, welcome to beautiful Colorado, where I'm today spending some time out in nature, just hanging out and doing some recordings for my YouTube channel and connecting with me and connecting with nature. And every now and then, that's a fantastic thing to do. So I thought that on my wanderings today, I might just share with you some ideas about living your best life. And knowing that these are my ideas and come from me, they're not necessarily NLP. I won't subscribe them to NLP. I'll just attribute them to myself. I think one of those aspects and ideas, in fact, 3 of them that I'd like to share with you today, is being congruent with who you are. So that might also include finding out who you are, living your best life, and setting boundaries. So being congruent, living your best life, and setting boundaries. And sometimes that's not always easy to do. When we're incongruent or not feeling aligned or whole within ourselves, sometimes we're an effect of what's happening in life. We're stuck in a job or not being ourselves in a relationship. And that's always challenging, but it happens. And no one really lives in isolation. No one lives in, well, people do, but I'm not quite sure we're supposed to live in isolation or live in a world where it's just ourselves and nobody else. So things happen around us, but it's how we handle what happens to us, not actually what happens to us, that sets us on the path of our lives and our goals and our dreams. But when you can know what your values are what's important to you. And I think values is probably one of the most important things that a person can identify and know about themselves, because these also kind of act as those guidance, foundational aspects of who we are and what we want in life. And I know that for me, like, integrity is one of my key values. And if I'm ever living out of integrity, then there's something not quite right. I cannot be congruent within myself. And sometimes I have to put on hold what I'm doing or what I want to do until I can have that level of integrity to do and be me, to live my life to the best that I can. So even with that aspect of congruence, sitting down at some point and finding out with you what's important to you. What are those key aspects about you or life or relationships or communication? And values are 1 or 2 word types of things like integrity and commitment and fun, freedom, health, happiness. And find out in your life what is fitting your values and what is not fitting your values. And then what's in your control to do something about that. If, for example, fun is something that's important to me, or growth is something that's important to me, and I'm not growing, or I'm not being challenged, or I'm not having fun, then something's not going to be quite right. And I can't be who I am when I want. And that congruency is important. So congruency, know what you want, and then 2, live your best life. Make choices that are aligned with those intentions in the values, which allow you to be you. There's so many people that live in the effect of what's happening in life that they forget that they're in charge of their life, that they actually have responsibility. And that if something's not going right in their life, they can do something about it. So even that concept of what we bring into our lives is the output of our life. I guess it's that law of attraction I totally subscribe to, because where we put our focus and our attention is, what happens in our life. And if I'm focusing on what I don't want, then probably I'm finding more of what I don't want in my life. And if we're focusing on what we can't have versus what we desire, again, we're then creating problems where problems might not need to exist. And we're creating boundaries where there shouldn't be boundaries. And I'll talk about boundaries in a moment, but those are your boundaries. When I'm talking about living your best life, it doesn't mean always putting yourself first, because other people may need to come first from time to time, but it's putting your needs up there. It's making sure that you are, it's the best way to put it, that what you want in life matters. That even if you're a parent, your first priority isn't really your kids, it's you. Because when you're being you, when you're being congruent and aligned and living your best life, you're giving them permission to do the same. You're giving them the ability to be who they want to be. You're teaching them that as parents, it's important to be themselves. You're teaching them that they are important, that they matter. And if I could go back and help a lot of kids understand that their parents mattered, so therefore as parents they can matter, wow, I think that would make such a big difference in life. So know what you want and be willing to live your best life. Get out of bed, know what you want. Are you living a life that gives you pleasure or gives you pain? Or are you just alive? Are you living or are you alive? I would invite anyone to step out of just being alive into living, into, sucking the marrow from the bones of life, whatever that might mean. I think I got that from Dead Poet Society. But it's such an important thing that we can leave a legacy, that our lives matter, that something can make a difference for us around us. And then thirdly, having boundaries. Knowing when to say no, when to say yes, when to put your foot down, when to draw a line in the sand, when enough is enough. In relationships, with your kids, with a partner, in business. Just because something is happening around you doesn't mean that it has to be right. Doesn't mean you have to say yes to it. Just because you're in a marriage doesn't mean that everything that your partner wants is right or should be. Having boundaries that go, that is against my religion, that's against my values, that's against my beliefs, that's against my morals. No, that doesn't fit for me. Knowing when boundaries can be shifted, because we can shift our boundaries, we can make and update our values at any point in time, but not to update our values because it suits another person. I work with a lot of clients who are in relationships with a narcissistic partner or who are bullied at work, and they're continually shifting their values. They're shifting their boundaries of what they'll accept and what they won't accept because of fear. And fear is no way to live. And that's not holding on to our boundaries. That's not even holding on to who we are. And that's definitely not being congruent with where we want to be in life. So being able to identify the difference of when you're really being congruent and authentic and living your best life, and when you're staying okay with status quo. Sometimes status quo is fine because it's great. Sometimes status quo is congruent and aligned and letting us live our lives with our boundaries. Sometimes it's just not. If there are things in your life, relationships, children, your parents, health, anything that's not allowing you to live your best life, it's time to take stock, to stop and ask yourself, what can I do? What's in my control? What can I do to get myself back to cause, to live the life that I want to live? Because right at this moment, you've only got one. And I hope that you can live the best of it. Thank you very much for joining me today. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel, ask me some questions so that I can answer them, and I'll see you next time. Thanks very much. Go live your best life.